Hello there. As I promised, I'm going to just review your essays and reports that you've written so far. Let's get directly started our review. So, sought out to seek. Probably this is the kind of note that you've taken on your behalf, and in the real examination, we're not taking any notes onto the exam papers. Just bear it in mind. So, let's start from the main part. The charts underneath, okay, the underneath or below, okay, we never use such kind of vocabulary, all right, in the reporting. In IELTS task one, we don't use them. So because we haven't ever been required to draw something like charts or get a pie chart or tables and so forth. Therefore, try not to include these. And besides, I'd like you to include the paraphrase of the given prompt. Whatever the prompt is asking you, just try not to use the same, but try to use the different word structures as well as grammatical structures so that you can catch the attention of the examiners. So the charts indicate what UK graduate and postgraduate students who went into some kinds of work besides full-time works did after leaving college in 2018. This is a spelling mistake, so we need to change it with E. As can be seen in the first bar chart, the major quantity. Instead of quantity, I would say the majority of students here. The majority of students prospected for further study in 2008, and more than 17,000 students were keen on. After keen on, we use gerund. Okay, we're keen on searching part-time work. So we say full-time job versus part-time job, and part-time work is a bit outdated, but depends. So I would prefer using part-time job. So the trend, now because we're talking about the trend that we have in front of us in the visual, therefore we can use the definite article. The trend demonstrates that the amount of unemployed amount, why do we have to use here amount? Instead, we have to use the number because we're referring to the unemployed graduates who are the person, who are the people, and therefore their people are countable now. So the number of unemployed graduates was 16,235. The number of unemployment slightly differentiated. So you misused the place of number and amount. Here, unemployment is the name of the, let's say, situation. Therefore, here we can use the amount of or the quantity of unemployment slightly differentiated from percentage of part-time employees. So now here you're comparing two different things, unemployment versus employees, right? Either you can say the number of unemployed, here we're referring to the people. In that case, you can compare the part-time employees as well as unemployed people. That might make sense. Therefore, you need to identify whether you're going to compare employment versus employment or the unemployed people to part-time employees. To compare others, a few people sought for voluntary work in 2008. It's clearly revealed that the most part of postgrads were okay because they're not one, were enthusiastic to further study. So it's a good vocabulary to be stated here. And I would like to inspire you to use such kind of vocabulary, phrasal verbs in your reports and essays so that you can catch the attention of the examiner. Regarding both, not the both, but both, because we know we're talking about the charts, both of charts, the statistics illustrates this, although there is s at the end, it's not plural. Illustrates the number of people who look for further study were dominant in 2008. So look for is a phrasal verb, and it's not the academic but informal phrasal verb. Therefore, you can say explore the opportunities, or let's say at least search, but not look for. Unlike the quantity of further studies searches, just 345 postgrads scored for voluntary work is again is a great vocabulary to be used. Just try to focus on such kind of topic like vocabulary. So the unit of unemployment was 5 times more than voluntary work. 5 times overall. The total amount of graduates, again, number. We're talking about the number of people versus amount of non-living things. So the total number of graduates was much more than postgrads in UK in 2008. Both the two categories were reluctant about voluntary work. Each group of students was making effort, was making an effort to handle further study. Okay, so this is about the notes, and let's get started with the essay by itself. So people are able to procure and obtain any kind of product due to enhanced online shopping facilities and highly ameliorated shipping service or services. So services, let's write here services. Why do we have to use here services? First of all, it's about the parallel structure. And secondly, when we use the pluralization, then it refers to the generalization. That we're not talking about this specific topic, but we are talking about the, let's say, general issues here. So when you're required to talk about the general issues, then pluralization or the use of indefinite article like a or an should be enforced, right? Should be enforced. Countries are becoming this kind of technical issue are becoming more and more identical because of accessibility features as big percentage of not big, I would say here large percentage of people desire uh, same things. You mean things? Okay. Same things. Global similarity happens or realizes. All right. I assume that. So my recommendation to you is avoiding such kind of personalization in the introduction body paragraphs. All right. Instead, you can leave it to, let's say, to the conclusion part. By the way, as I can see, you've written overall, and instead of overall in the essays, we generally use in conclusion or to conclude. Okay, overall is for task one, reports. Assume that, and after that, we don't have the comment, just we do it in Azerbaijani, therefore let's omit it. I assume that this kind of improvement cannot have, because we're talking about one thing, there's much more disadvantages compared to there was a spelling mistake, compared to advantages. However, merits are negligible, they exist. However, merits are negligible. What do you mean? However, merits are negligible or trivial, unimportant, they exist. So I believe that you'd like to say here, however, merits are negligible, or even though that merits are negligible, they exist. Maybe you'd like to say it like this, but I still read it like however, and that makes no sense. Therefore, you need to you need to fix it by yourself, whatever you want to say. But these kinds of things will cause the fluency issue. Therefore, you need to be careful about it. One of the plus points of it is inexpensive prices, which are caused, okay, because we're talking about the prices, which are caused by obtainability or attainability. It's a fact. So in the IELTS essays, we do not use any. Let's write this here. Avoid contractions in academic essays. Okay, instead of it doesn't, we say it does not. It does not reveal any advantage, or it isn't. Instead of it isn't, we say it is not. Okay, we use it in the full form. Okay, let's clear our drawings here. All right. It is a fact. It's a fact that items are as highly costed. You mean costly, probably like expensive, as they are sporadic. In addition, the availability Now, availability can help to overcome culture shock, plainly if people are surrounded by native items, what they're in foreign country, acclimatizing will be much more effortless. Okay, very good. Subsequently, I desire to deal with downsides of modern progress. The basic drawback is related to monotony. Obviously, homogeneousness that takes human life tedious. Why do you say takes human life tedious? You mean makes? Maybe it's technical issue, but still you need to be careful about it. In the traditional IELTS writing, you'll be exposed to write with your hands, which is called handwriting. But as long as you're writing on the computer, therefore you need to be careful about the technical issues as well. Incidentally, resemblance has abominable influence. Okay, we're talking about any influence has an abominable influence on national culture. All countries have their own unique historical culture and traditions, which countries are known with them. So here, countries and all countries, we don't have to repeat them, which are known, which are known by their by these features or by them. So we say although with one L, but with not double L and with not T at the end. Although introducing national values in every side of the world would make country or its culture prominent and would make country or its. Why do we have to use here two words? R is irrelevant here. Let's omit it. So world would make country its culture let's say and its culture prominent, spreading them unsubconsciously. So probably you'd like to say unconsciously what you said subconsciously. Subconsciously is a different thing. Consciously means that you're aware of something. Unconsciously means you're not aware of something, but subconsciously means that you are indeed aware of them, but without being aware of the such circumstance. Okay. All right, we're talking about unconsciously versus subconsciously, which is wrong to say so. All right, spreading them unconsciously diminishes their estimate. The reason can lead to escape historical arguments. So lead to is an expression, therefore it has to be followed by either a noun expression or a gerund. In this case, we can say to escape from historical arguments, especially facts which are related to culture, according to other disadvantage. So we don't say according to, because according to it shows the reference, right? We can say here regarding the other disadvantage. If all governments and countries have some opportunity, have the same, we use the same opportunity, energy sources, common products, they will produce, let's say, and here because we're listing several items, and the last one should be separated by means of and common products, they will produce everything by themselves. They will produce it, they will do it by themselves, and it will contribute to a decrease in the amount of international economics. Economic is the name of the science. Let's say economy, international economy, and trade. Or maybe you like to say finance and trade because the combination of finance and trade is equal to economy. So as I said earlier, instead of in overall, we can say here in conclusion or to conclude. To conclude, I consider that this negative attainment can be prevented by developing manufacture of national and unique products. Commercial secret must be kept safe to hinder and case of emulating. Give safe to hinder and case of emulating. This is how it is inserted here. I have a doubt, but they're not just matching with each other because it's against the parallel structure. Must be kept safe to hinder and emulate something. Probably you'd like to say emulate this case. So you have to change it in this way, emulate something, okay? Because the first part is infinitive and the second part should also be infinitive. If the first part is gerund, then you need to apply the gerund in the second part. So here we have a report. So let's see how many words are here quickly. So there are 193 words, which means it's okay because at least you're required to write 150 words. So the graph below, again, below, we shouldn't use it. The graph presents how money was spent on various forms of entertainment over a five-year period. The information graph is based on data it's based on the data because we're talking about the data of Booz and Hamilton. It's specific and unique, and we're talking about the definite situation. Therefore, the article, definite article, should be used. The graph illustrates differences among Asia, Europe, and USA in 1995 and 2000 years. In 1995, $50 billion were spent. Okay, were spent on television activities in USA. By comparison, the amount rose 50%. So you mean the amount rose by 50% or and reached okay? So probably still it's clear. So we need to be aware that whether it rose by or to. Two shows the direction that if something rises to, let me explain it over the board. So annotate text. So we can say increase or rise by 50%. Okay, 50%. So let's say our original value is 20%. So if something rises by or increases by 50%, then it makes 7%. Okay, this by shows the difference. But if we say that increased to 50%, then it means that the ultimate destination is 50%. All right, from 20 to 50%, it increased or reached 50%. Okay, just be aware of by versus to. Let's close drawings here, and so 50% reached 100 billion. And publishing outgoings were because it's in the plural, therefore you need to use here were rather than was. Were above $200 billion. Pay attention to the pluralization. Okay, plural nouns should be added, plural suffixes should be added to the end of plural nouns, either s or es suffixes. Or there might be some irregular nouns like man, or it becomes man, or woman, it becomes a woman. Okay, mouse, mice, and just be careful about these. We're both $200 billion, while it was approximately $130 billion. Probably you mean previously, or in the earlier times. Okay, previously, because you said that they were above $200 billion, while it was approximately $130 billion in 1995, maybe. So you need to identify it exactly that whatever you're talking about. Afterwards, the expenditure of the music market increased. We're talking about the past, therefore you need to be aware of the past form of the words. Increased rapidly, and it was about $245 billion in 2000. USA spent much more money for cinema business in proportion to others in both periods. Right, in both years. Probably you'd like to say here in both years. I believe that it's not the line graph, but it is the pie chart or bar chart. So therefore, there are specific years. So just be mindful about that. So and also, instead of USA did something or the other country did something, instead of that, you can say Americans. Okay, or the residents of the United States, or American residents, Asians, the population of Asia, Asian population, Europeans, right? You can use such kind of structures in order to make different vocabularies. The outlets of Asia and Europe were much more identical by comparison with the USA. The expenditures of TV business dropped twice time in 2000. You mean probably twice. There's no need for time because we have already given here in 2002 in Asia. Uh, Asia paid out $67 billion for cinema industry in 1995. Otherwise, so instead of otherwise, I would say here, on the other hand, Europe dispersed $30 billion more than Asia in 1995. Furthermore, diversification in cinema budgetary was 21 billion, maybe dollars, you'd like to say dollars probably, in 2000 between Asia and Europe overall. And by the way, overall is a word which is one word, okay? So do not separate it with a space. Overall, okay, not overall. Overall, according to the graph, it's obvious that in academic reports we do not use contraction. Therefore, let's say it is obvious that most part of consumption was allocated for cinema sector in all continents. All right. So what's this one? Seems like, is it an essay or something like that? Yeah, it seems like an essay. 304 words. All right. So seems like I have to just all right. I just checked it out. Under British and Australian law, a jury in a criminal case is uninformed about the defendant's past criminal data. Okay. This preserves the person who is being charged of the illegal behavior. It is, again, no contractions in academic essays, is considered heaviness of panel. You mean penalty? Of penalty. Probably you'd like to say here the extent of penalty should be based on recent crime. Recently is an adverb which has to be followed by a kind of a verb. Here, recent crime, okay, it's an adjective which describes the noun. Some lawyers have proposed that this practice should change, okay, not should be changed, should change. Additionally, so additionally, it's another sentence. Additionally, juries should be given all the past facts before they reach a decision about the case. I estimate that the circumstance exists, not is exist. So we do not use two words together. Okay, either we can say is doing something, which is present continuous tense, or do or does something. Okay. Therefore, just be aware of the, let's say, lack of the use of two verbs identically in the same place. So I estimate that the circumstance exists due to desire of selecting humanitarian, due to the desire of selecting humanitarian punishment. All right, of course. Of course is an informal vocabulary. Okay, it's conversational. Therefore, we should avoid it. So, what can we say? For example, we can say certainly. But it would be great to state it in the not in the beginning, but in the middle of the sentence. Let's just do it. It must certainly, and in both sides, you need to put comma. It must certainly be punished, culprit, by the deputy. So probably you want to say that culprit, culprit must certainly be punished. I'm sorry, now change the rules. Culprit must certainly be punished by the adequate methods. Although crime is so vicious, so we don't use such kind of contractions again. Uh, so we can use it in the full form. Okay, and for example, and then comma, homicide penalty phase must be pertinent to human rights and criminal law. In some countries, and then we can put here comma because there's a pause in the speech as well. If a person, which person? Any person. In that case, we put here a definite article or and depending on the first letter of the noun. If it is vowel, then we use an, or if it's a consonant, then we use a article. If a person did the same type or other crime in the past, it leads to get hefty sentence. It can lead to getting hefty sentence because leads to is an expression. Leads to something. We can say it leads to something, not it leads to do something. It leads to something. Due to attempts of diminishing of harsh penalty, jury just concentrate. We can say may just concentrate on last crime. For my point. So not from my point, we can say from my point or from my standpoint, and simultaneously I have stated it in the past as well that just use my explanation or my these kinds of personalization only in the conclusion part. Because some examiners have some problems with the use of personalization in the academic essay, therefore trying to use it in the let's say introduction or body paragraph, instead just leave it to the conclusion part. From my standpoint, to avoid relying on criminal past during penalizing process, so avoiding, let's say avoiding, this is the noun, and avoiding reliance, the noun form. Now we need to use here the noun form. Avoiding reliance on criminal past during penalizing process. What do you mean by penalizing process? During the process, maybe it's the justification process or something like that. Okay, we can accept that. A penalizing process can create feebleness and unsafety in both system and society accordingly. I speculate that again, trying to use I, my, or personalization so many times, using only once in the conclusion part might be more than enough. I speculate that if people commit the identical crime or others again, it means that they will not get penalized. Get penalized by appropriate ways. So in appropriate ways, and instead of penalized, just using penalized, you can also say punished. Okay, punished. Let's write it correctly. Punished in appropriate ways. Maybe they had lighter penalty. Okay, the noun form of penalize is penalty. Penalty in proportion to the crime. Subsequently, accordingly, if they are in the beginning of the sentence, then we need to put comma. Subsequently, select much more punishment in contrast with illegal behavior causes an increase in the amount of crime. If the person, if the person, which person? If a person, any person, and therefore we need to use here a definite article. If a person who, or we can say if an individual who is accused is used with of as a collocation, who is accused of involuntary manslaughter, is arrested in the same with delinquents who are blamed of assassination of two or more people, she or he. So we can say she or he, or he or she, or instead of them, I would suggest you to use they. Okay, because they include both she and he, and that is more academic to say so. They will become more aggressive and vicious because of this situation. Because now we know that which situation we're talking about. So overall, or more appropriately, in conclusion, or to conclude, as to decline quantity of crime cases and to opt convenient punishment, juries have so to decline. So here we can say just to decline quantity of crime cases or criminal cases, and we can use it here to opt, or we can eliminate, doesn't matter, therefore we can opt it out. Opt convenient punishment, juries have to be, so instead of have to be, you can say need to or be required to, be compelled to, which shows a variety of vocabulary as well as it doesn't offend them. Juries have to base on criminal past of a person, or over an, let's say, over an offender. Okay. So penalization must be as humane as advocate. Adequate or advocate? What did you say here, advocate? It's a little bit difficult for me to grasp why you used here, advocate. Juries can provide the law system accurate methods. So we can say law systems. Juries can provide accurate methods to the law system for okay. Let's write it. Provide accurate methods to the law system. Why? This is the result: to decrease the number of criminal acts. And the security of society by according criminal record. We can say by, or simultaneously we can say by means of according criminal record of the individual. All right. Just pay attention to these things that I've been telling you here, because there are some of the common mistakes that you can have. So here, 220 words for a report. So I believe that it's way more than their expected number of words. Therefore, again, I suggest you to keep it between 170 and 190. Okay, basically you're not required to use all the let's say details that are given in the visual. Therefore, just try to concentrate on the main features, main ideas. Okay, the building plans below. Okay, again, there is no below because we haven't drawn anything here. The building plans demonstrate Zaire High School in 1990 and in 2010. The first plan displays all school property, and the second plan illustrates school premises and private possession, respectively. Before respectively, accordingly, we can put here a comma. According to the first plan, school building. Why did we capitalize school? School building possessed 4 capacious basketball courts, which are shown, because we're talking about courts, which are shown. There are 4 of them, which is shown on the below right angle of plan in 1990. Boarding school north of the basketball courts. Boarding school is in the north of the basketball courts. 3 science labs localized between gym hall. So you mean are located? Localized has a different meaning. Located between gym hall and a boarding school. Canteen and library are presented next to the entrance of state. Additionally, 4 municipal classrooms ensconced opposite to the library and canteen. In 2010, right part of in the right side of landed property was detached to construct apartments. I mean construction apartments. to construct apartments. Okay, to construct apartments and shop, whereas total ground belonged to school in 1990. One of the notable differences between 1990 and 2010 is abolishing of boarding school. A pair of rainwater tanks and trees. Trees were established instead of boarding school. You mean in place of? Yeah, in place of boarding school. The amount of labs. So here the number of labs. Labs was decreased because here the subject is the number, not the labs. Okay, the number of labs was increased from 3 to 6. Biology, chemistry, and industrial technology labs got in. Let's say are installed because if we use get, it makes it more conversational. Therefore, be installed, are installed is the proper word. So industrial technology labs are installed in the place of science labs. The quantity of basketball courts, again, the number of basketball courts was abbreviated. Abbreviated is generally used in the writing in the book. Okay, we abbreviated this one. So we can say here reduced or diminished or decreased or fallen, I'm sorry, in the participle form, or dropped. Okay, reduced twice time. What do you mean twice time? Twice. It was reduced twice. Classroom was organized in the half part of. What do you mean in the half part? Probably you want to say in the middle part of gym hall. Maybe you want to say so. I have no idea. Furthermore, and moreover, these kinds of words are adding the information to the next sentence. Therefore, we need to separate it. Furthermore, other classrooms were compounded. Wi-Fi zone was established while unviability. So after a while, we need to use this normal sentence structure like subject plus verb. So therefore, you need to just make unviability a kind of normal sentence, or whatever you want to mean by this. In summary, so we don't say in summary or to summarize, to conclude in conclusion in the reports. Instead, we use it in the essays. And in the essays, well, I would suggest you to stick with two. Okay, in conclusion, to summarize. In conclusion, to conclude. But in the reports, you can just use overall, right? Nothing more than that. Overall, many innovative changes were exhibited on both of the plans. In contrast to the place of library and canteen remained unchangeable. So, okay, in contrast, but why do you say here in contrast? What's the contrasting point here? Maybe you would say here, however, that might be the proper word here. The place of library and canteen remained unchangeable or remained the same. Unchangeable is has a different connotation. It means that it cannot be changed. Okay, therefore, unchanged. Either you can say here unchanged or remained the same. Okay, this is more proper. All right. This is an essay. There are 271 words. It's just the right number of the word that you use. Nowadays. So the correct version of saying so is nowadays, which should be followed by a comma. And also, I've told you that. Let's write it over here. Nowadays, and these days. These are plenty of vocabulary to be used. And therefore, I would like to suggest you to refer to the common connected words document because there are some variations there. Which other time expression might be used aside from these? For example, contemporarily. or we can say in modern age, or maybe we can say for the time being, or in the present climate, or at present, currently, okay, and so forth. So just try to use more academic version rather than the primitive ones. Okay, this is some of the vocabulary can be used as a time expression to identify that which time frame you are focusing on. Okay, let's clear these drawings. Nowadays, much information about the lives of celebrities is come across in newspapers, magazines, and online. All data about prominent people's personal life, career, relationships, healthcare, and health condition. Okay, well, when we list several items, then the last one should be separated by means of and. Just keep in mind, health condition are available. Although, okay, though is more conversational, therefore just be aware of this. Instead, we can say here, although. This is more neutral. Although some of them are published with their consent, journalists are keen on handling after prepositions. We generally use gerund, all right? Handling secret information. Spreading of negative information inspires. So while spreading something, spreading negative information or propagative information inspires unsatisfactory results. Inspire has something, it's more connotating with the positive things. Therefore, let's say incites or tempts unsatisfactory results for celebrities, or sorry, not incited in the past, but we need to use it in the present simple. Let's say cause. Information causes unsatisfactory results for celebrities and members of society. It is no contraction, is the greatest sample of violation of privacy. So is it the greatest? Why do you say it is the greatest? There's no greater than this one. Who knows? Therefore, we need to be very careful about the selection of the words. Okay, it's up to you. It's your opinion. Therefore, I'm not going to judge you for your opinion. But this is a little bit tricky and risky. Therefore, in order not to be blamed for your opinions, although you shouldn't have been to do so, sometimes it might cause some problems. Therefore, just be aware of such kind of instances. Firstly, it's against international human rights and law system of local camera. If this kind of violation is common in country, it illustrates the feebleness, the weakness of law system in the government or of government. Because of their fame, I mean, celebrated people have the army of fans who all support them. Additionally, some of the fans have the incline. You mean incline is the word, and the noun form is inclination. Have an inclination to stimulate themselves to personage. Especially children's psychology. Children's psychology is affected by degenerative malign behavior or behaviors in order to make it more general. The popular person can elect suicide. What do you mean elect? You mean select? Elect means, for example, we can elect the president or the municipality member. Okay, that is elect. A select is not about the persons. It can be a person, it can be a non-living thing, so it has more, let's say, general meaning. Or you can say opt for, like an option, or choose, like a choice. Okay, select suicide. Uh, select suicide as the way of salvation due to soaring hatred against him or against them. As every unsatisfactory circumstance, there is some understandable explanations to. Sometimes, instead of to, I would say here as well, because this is more academic and they have the same meaning. Sometimes the group of paparazzi abuse their right to mishandle terrible information about people's privacy because readers. I suggested you never use because in the beginning of the sentence. Therefore, you can change it like due to the fact that, or just since, or maybe as, due to the fact that readers are much more passionate about this kind of data. Okay, probably you'd like to say it like this. The reason of the previous sentence. Therefore, we need to make it smaller. It is possible, again, it is possible that the information may be falsehood, to generate a sensational topic. Incidentally, what happened? Okay. So incidentally, the information leak is caused by private conflicts. Monetary demands can be, so I don't know how to get rid of it. Okay, just ignore this. Incidentally, the information leak is caused by private conflicts. Monetary demands can be requested to keep, okay, as a result of, so this is the result. So we can use it to keep information confidential. So in conclusion, to explore attractive information and publish it our journalist profession. So probably you want to say that exploring attractive information, or instead of attractive, we can say luring, because attractive has positive connotation, but luring has also the negative connotation. Exploring luring information and publishing it are journalists' profession, or maybe it's their responsibility, liability, or maybe it's their duty. You can say so. However, to disclose disadvantaged information can help us. So disclosing, now here you need to use the, let's say, gerund. Disadvantaged information can help us identify, people, indeed, we can say use to identify or just identify. Generally, in modern English, we prefer not to use to, but it's up to you. I wouldn't use to, but it depends on you, right? So identify people and make relations. Privacy must be respected, of course. Again, instead of course, with certainty or with surety. The people, which people are you talking about? People predict the situation before being famous. I would say becoming famous, because they were not famous, but they become because of some changes to their attitudes, to their something. They did something and they become famous, not they are famous. Although they are aware of negative sides of being well known is used with dash. Human right must be obeyed. Yeah, human rights must be obeyed. All right, or must be maintained. Here we have the report. I think this is the last one, 181. Is the number is great. The pie chart below, again, do not write below, underneath, and so forth, because we're not drawing anything here. The pie chart describes worldwide energy consumption in 2010. Additionally, furthermore, moreover, we need to put here a comma, okay, after these types of words. Additionally, the table presents the percentage of differences between 2009 and 2010. Oil was the most widely used type of energy in percentage of others in every side of the world in 2010. The chart illustrates that the amount of oil consumption was 30% that period, opposite to oil expenditure. Renewables was the most negligible species in 2010. What do you mean by species? Uh, Maybe you'd like to say resource or energy type, energy type, energy, what kind of energy. The excites of nuclear energy and hydroelectricity are so the excites of x and y. So the noun here is excites. Okay, therefore we need to say was, not is, not are. Okay, because we're talking about something happened in the past. The source files, they were 5%. You mean they were, not they were. We can say they were 5% and 6% accordingly, which means that nuclear energy was 5% and hydroelectricity energy was 6%. So, or we can say there were the consumption of 5% and 6% of nuclear energy and hydroelectricity accordingly, respectively, right? You can say it either way. Coal and natural gas were, because X and Y, which makes two, coal and natural gas were one of the most essential sources of energy consumption. Their percentage was 30% and 24% respectively. You can put here comma in order to increase the fluency of the reader. In contrast with 2009, an increase. Now increase is used as a noun, very good. Increase occurred in the total amount, total amount of energy expenditures. Growth in coal and natural using natural what? Natural X, so whatever you'd like to say. So it's missing, therefore it's going to be the negative impact for the examiner. So using verb, you mean usage, natural usage, natural X usage verb. So growth in X and Y, okay, usage was, because our subject here is growth, not coal and natural gas. If there's no growth, coal and natural gas usage were nearly similar in that case, but the growth we're talking about here, the growth was nearly similar, 7.5 and 7% respectively. Again, common. So you have sometimes punctuation issues which needs some fixation. Try to overcome this obstacle. All right. Just watch the videos very carefully and take notes of your punctuation notes so that you won't make the same mistake once again in the future. The most notable boom is observed in renewables. The difference in the size of renewables was 15.5% in 2010. Subsequently, he used it, which means that you are aware of the punctuation, but sometimes because of some reasons, you might avoid it, you might neglect it. Therefore, just be more careful. Consumptions of nuclear energy and oil were insignificant. All over, so probably you want to say overall, but you said all over. All over means everything finished. Overall, inside of increase in all energy times, oil was the most prominent energy source in 2010. So moreover, we're adding new information to the other sentence. Therefore, we need to capitalize it and put the comma after the furthermore. Moreover was kind of additional types of connected words. Furthermore, renewables were, because renewables is let's say, plural noun. Instead of was, we should use here verb or preferred occasionally. Okay, this is the end of our essay review. Thank you very much for asking me to review and watching this. So I need to stop recording.